Everybody, and welcome to Love 97, Ivan Showtime. Primetime! I got an independent thinker in the studio with me, and we got a special guest who'll be joining us momentarily, and the likes of Obie Roberts.
It's ready
of
to
course.
go.
Obie, your jet reaching a bit late, but it's good to have you, man.
How you doing?
Yeah, we got Obie, our special guest in the studio, independent thinker, man. It's a good day to be here. Thank God, man, we're alive. We see yet another show.
I had a friend of mine. Good evening, Mamas. Good evening, our special guest. I had a friend of mine who I used to work with some time ago on the boat in the 90s, 96, 95. He just passed away yesterday. We him sleeping in the chair on his job in a barber shop. He was sleeping with the Bible in his hand. So I will be going to visit St. Lindenhurst Capillion and Martin Luther King then. He had the Bible in the yard at the time and they beat him dead. Yeah. So I believe he's going in the right place. We pilling them as Pilling and Martin Luther King and Marcus Garvey and all those good men.
All those great men.
Great men.
All right. Well, again, welcome to the show, and our special guest has arrived, Obie Roberts. Double evening to you, Obie.
Good night, Showtime. Good evening, Critical Thinker. Good evening, Bahamas. Showtime, it's good to see you again.
Always good to see you. You know, this is some good times for me. You know that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Dolphins 8-4.
Oh, yeah.
I had to slip that one in. So, Obie, so what's going on, man? I heard, I don't want to say lockdown, but the people sound like what is it, the Golden Gates or?
Yes, Ivan and Critical Thinker, I've been in Golden Gates for almost 2 years now, as I expressed a strong interest of hopefully receiving the PLP's nomination for the constituency of Golden Gates. The people of Golden Gates have been fantastic. They have welcomed me into their homes. Wow. I've heard of many of their concerns, what is going on in the community and nationally, and what they would like to see for their constituency in terms of improvements, and what they would like to see for their country. This COVID-19 pandemic that has gripped the country and the world has affected so many people locally and internationally, but let's speak about the Bahamas and people in Golden Gates. You have a lot of people who are unemployed. You have a lot of people who are financially impacted, in which we generally take for granted now. People are living from day to day. It's no longer from week to week or month to month right now. The good thing now, we've seen that Bahamas is now open, and you have some people return to work. Atlantis, yeah.
Okay.
What is also very concerning is how our people are really struggling. All right, we've seen through some videos and pictures of persons who sitting in cars on long lines at churches, various churches, or I think last week, Island Luck had done something.
And let me just say, caps off to Sabas and some of the great things he continues to do, along with Fox. They continue to do extraordinarily good things for the people here in the Bahamas. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it's right now, Ivan, even though we're celebrating Christmas at the end of the year, you have a lot of people who have very little to nothing in their homes, in which for them they're struggling to survive. I could tell you things that have been doing, some initiatives that I've been doing in Golden Gates constituency in terms of food distribution as best as I can, from as far back as April up until November. Care packages to the elderly and persons who are financially impacted. And I also did a small business stimulus initiative to assist some
small business people in Golden Gate?
Yeah, that's Ivan and Critical Thinker. People are, when we had the various emergency lockdowns, that was implemented by the government. You had businesses that had to shut down. They couldn't operate. And so, for instance, say if it was food vendors or persons in the food service industry who have inventory, they are not permitted to sell their wares, and so their inventory spoil and other things in that regard. So that was money that they used and lost, and they couldn't obtain any revenues from it. And then you also had persons who live in the community. Those businesses were at risk of closing, so you're putting more persons home. More persons home.
So let me ask you this, Obie. When we talk about some of the lockdowns that we've had, overall, looking at lockdowns, what is your overall review as it relates to lockdown? I'm not saying that the Prime Minister was wrong, or not saying that he's right, but what kind of direct effect it has as it relates to the people in communities like Golden Gates, Carmichael, and whatever have you?
Well, Ivan, the biggest problem that I've seen, this is my opinion, people just want more information in order for them to make the best decisions possible for themselves and their family. And they weren't getting it. And you're talking about unprecedented times where you have a virus that is killing people.
Yeah.
All right, which we've seen. We lost quite a few behemoths, some friends of mine, as well. And persons wanted to know what was the government plan going forward.
If there's any. If there's any plan.
Yes.
What's the plan?
Yes. And so many people were very concerned and wanted to know what was going on. Case in point, like I was saying, the businesses. You have persons, when the lockdown was relaxed earlier this year, persons had met the requirements, health certificates, COVID-19 requirements in order for you to open in terms of operating your businesses. These businesses would open, and then 2-3 days later they'd be forced to shut down by the police. And so you had a lot of people
who wanted to know what's going on.
What was going on. They were confused. And you had some persons who saw that there was some selective treatment for certain businesses that didn't apply to others.
Right.
And so persons were very concerned. What was the plan? You also see, and also this, I wanted to give credit to other persons who have assisted persons in various communities, New Providence and throughout the country, with food care packages and other assistance as well outside of myself, which we've seen and probably on social media and Facebook.
Right.
But I've been a critical thinker that is, the level of despair our people are experiencing right now. Once you go from homes to homes and you speak to persons, and not everyone may want helping out. Some persons want someone, a listening ear.
Yeah, someone to talk to.
Or some advice in terms of how they can proceed and move on and how they could improve their lives.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of scared Bahamians right now who don't know what to do going forward and what is the plan for the country by this government.
A lot of uncertainties. Anyway, I'm going to open my phone lines, 326-8255. Those of you who want to join the conversation, feel free. Of course, we also streaming live, Independent Thinker on Facebook, Instagram, Independent Thinker 242. You can join us there as well. We got Obie Roberts, who is the, but Obie, I must say, at one point, I thought you already got the nod, but I understood that there is no candidates that was chosen to this point as it relates to the Progressive Liberal Party.
You are correct, Ivan. What we are seeing throughout the various constituencies, it is something that was just recently implemented under our leadership, under the new leader, Philip Brave Davis, and something that is called the aspirant candidates.
Aspirant candidates?
Yes, in which you have different persons who have expressed interest. You have to meet certain criteria from the party. You must be given permission by the party in order to go into these constituencies. The branches in the various constituencies will be informed that X amount of persons have met the criteria, and you could acknowledge them, welcome them into meetings, and introduce themselves in the various constituencies. And the process has been ongoing. I think what persons have been seeing lately was certain aspirant candidates were recommended by the branch based on a vote to the party leadership, which carries some value, but it does not articulate the entire, carry significant weight, all 100 or majority of the weight for the person to be selected. You still have to go through our party's candidates committee, which is a very thorough vetting process, and then you'll be presented in front of our party's National General Council for approval.
That's a lot of stuff to go through. What is the number one challenge as it relates to going through that? What are some of the things that you have to have certain things in order for you to be a candidate, in terms of maybe your finances need to be a certain way, or you need to have some qualification academically, Does those things have anything to do with it?
Not particularly, the party wants to see your vision and your plan for the constituency.
Right.
Because you have a lot of people who express interest. Right. Some persons may come in and don't have a plan. Right. If you want to be a part of advancing the nation and the constituency, what is your plan?
Yeah.
How are you able to interact with persons in the constituency and get their support, galvanize their support around you, and rally behind your plan as you present it to the various constituents? And if they feel that you are the person,
and they decided to,
then they will come to the branch, become financial or financial as it is now, and they will cast their vote in terms of who they want.
But that's a big feat to fill now. You're talking Shane Gibson. And Shane Gibson was in Golden Gates there, and people love Shane Gibson, regardless of what. I mean, Shane Gibson, I must say, and of course, I'm from Golden Gates as well.
Really?
Yeah, man. Okay. And one thing I could say about Shane now, Shane is going to make sure that everybody be okay. He's not that type of a member of parliament who would say, well, I think they have an mind stopping there, whatever. He go to everybody's door. And when time for him to leave certain things, he do that. And I must say, that's one thing I can say about Shane, is that Shane has always been somebody who, very good with the people, and the people love him. Even at the end of the day, they may not be a Progressive Liberal Party supporter, but they just love him. They would go to him with problems and say, man, just the situation I need, this happened or whatever. And in some cases, they don't necessarily Progressive Liberal Party supporter. That's what I learned about him. As a matter of fact, my aunt, my close aunt, she worked with him for years. I don't know if they passed the baton on to you, or you might know her through branch meeting and everything. Hudson.
Yes, I met her.
Yeah,
yes.
Very, very nice lady. And her and Shane been working together for some time. Independent thinker, you're pretty quiet this evening.
Yeah, I guess it went across my mind where I remember that you were a constituent
of Golden
Gate.
Yeah.
So this could be Rebel Parliament.
Yeah, well, listen, when my sister told me, she said, Ivan, who was here? And I said, yeah, she said, Obie Roberts. I knew Obie Roberts there in the politics, man. He was just campaigning for something. He said, no. And I'm not afraid to say this, but I was under the impression, I don't know if he's still vying for that area, that Greg Burris was showing interest. So you compete against Greg Burris?
Well,
not competing. I shouldn't use that word. But he's also...
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Oh man, that's going to be a pretty good race. I mean,
race. Greg was not looking at a different area now because we always talk about that.
Yeah, well, I've been hearing some.
And not only that, my good folks is preparing to go back into law.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's not a bad idea for him. But folks that study law, he should be pretty good. He studied law in the United States as well at some point.
Tell him go back and practice now.
Yeah, well, then. But congratulations on you doing that, and even though you haven't gotten the nod yet, I must say good luck to you and all the best.
I would, and critical, it hasn't been easy.
Independent thinker.
Excuse me, excuse me, brother.
Yeah.
One of the things that people also fail to realize, this has also been very challenging for everybody because we also doing this during a pandemic. All right, and you have to be wary that you don't want to contract COVID, and you don't also want to, if you do have it and you're not aware of it, you don't want to pass it on to anyone. So the social distancing and the practices of COVID, you have to be very careful in your interaction with persons. Yeah, because especially meeting a lot of elderly persons.
Yeah.
You don't want to negatively impact them with COVID in any which way.
Right.
And you just got to be very cautious.
Yeah, I see my lines a little. Let's take a call. I see the lines a little. Good evening, Primetime, Independent Thinker, Ivan Showtime. I got Obie Roberts in the studio. What could we do for you this evening?
A very pleasant good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Wonderful. I am hailing from the powerhouse in the south, the Golden Gates constituency. And I'm happy to report that the only person that I have seen in Golden Gates connecting with the constituents, with the residents, is your guest in studio today,
Mr.
Roberts.
Wow.
I just want to congratulate him for the stance that he is taking in reaching out to the people, even though he has not gotten the nod. Congratulations, sir. And I know that you would be a good representative for us here in Golden Gate, because what we need is true representation. And when I say representation, sirs, I'm talking about someone who truly represents the people. They go in the House, but when it's time to vote on a particular issue, they don't come back to the residents, to the constituents, and find out how the constituents feel about certain issues. And Mr. Roberts, I would like to ask you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
You get in the House representing the Golden Gate constituency. Will you come back to us and ask us for input, for feedback, and really truly represent us?
Yes, ma'am, without a doubt. My vision for Golden Gates cannot be realized without the support and the involvement of the residents of Golden Gates. So for me, it will be constant dialogue. And I mentioned to someone when I first came into Golden Gates, that same question was posed to me. And I told them, I said, I hope that y'all don't get tired of me, because you will see me in the consistency on a daily basis, ma'am.
Wow. Caller, let me just say this now. I've seen in the past where a conflict occurred where the people in the constituency had one opinion, and when the member of parliament went in the House and said, well, this is how I have to vote based on the fact that this is what the people are saying, he find himself in a lot of problems. What are your views as it relates to something like that?
Well, see, that is why I am not too strong on party politics, you see? Because sometimes some representatives feel that they have to vote for the party side. They can't go against the party, what the party is saying, what the party is pushing. But the party didn't put them in the House of Assembly. It's the people that put them in the House of Assembly. So I would wish for any representative that I vote for to represent me, regardless of what the party says. And that brings me to the next question. Mr. Roberts, sir, if you are not given the nod in Golden Gate to carry the standard or be the standard bearer for the PLP, are you willing to go independent?
Ma'am, that was another question that was posed to me by quite a few residents in terms of what would be my position. I would say this to you, I will cross that bridge when I get there, but anyone who knows me very well knows that I'm a PLP true and true, and I am a firm, strong believer of our party's philosophy. I'm trying to wipe every tear from every eye. And particularly now, we need serious persons for serious times to address many of our serious concerns in this country.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate your candidacy, and I appreciate the fact that you're honest. But one thing that I would like to ask you, sir, and that is this. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
What is your impression to all of these infighting in these parties trying to get the nomination? You don't think that it will tear your party apart? Because if somebody else gets the nod, all right, if somebody else gets the nod, then a lot of people will be dissatisfied. How do you feel about that?
Ma'am, one thing about Bahamians is we are extremely competitive people. And in this process, there's a winner and there's a loser. Well, I wouldn't say a loser. There's a winner and then someone who's not successful. And what I would propose to some persons in this, try your best to conduct the process in a fair and above board manner. Be respectful to your other aspirants and keep it clean. Because, as you just said, all of us are PLPs, and I'm speaking about the PLP particularly. We are PLPs. The enemy is the Free National Movement and the other parties in that regard. And that's one of the things I've told persons primarily. after this process, we still got to live together in the party. We still got to live together as Bahamians in this country.
Anyway, caller,
One more question, sir.
you got another question too?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
NLP stands for drying every tear from every eye. So I would like to know, what are the plans to wipe out poverty just in Golden Gates? We just start with Golden Gates. To wipe out poverty, because we have a lot of poverty, even in Golden Gates as we speak.
Golden Gates?
People are going to bed hungry.
Yeah, you gotta do
So
that.
I would like some specific plans, and I'll hang up and listen.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Mr. Roberts, and I'm going to continue to support your efforts in Golden Gate.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you. To answer a question, Ivan, one of the things I'm interested in is providing some economic empowerment to the Bahamian, to the residents of Golden Gates. This is one of the things that I did with the small business stimulus, because with that primarily, the economic stimulus that I did with 8 businesses, and I want to elaborate on that, what I did with that, I purchased X amount of inventory, and then I turned them into vouchers at a particular value. Those vouchers were then distributed to persons in Golden Gates who were in need, and that they could be redeemed in those Golden Gates businesses.
Wow.
One was water. All right. 2 was two fruit stands and vegetable stands. Another was 2 breakfast stands. Another one was a conch stand where you could get fresh conch salad and squash conch. Another person was selling fresh fish and conch. And the other one was also gas voucher from the Shell gas station on Carmichael Road and Blue Road. But also with that is to encourage the Golden Gates residents to support the businesses in your community.
Yeah.
And see, then the community takes care of you if you are an assistance of it. If you want those businesses to develop and expand, people look at Rupert Roberts today. But Rupert Roberts started small back more than 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And all you need is a plan, capital, but also the support of our community and the shop in the community. It's called smart business or smart economics, community economics. If Ivan opens up a business, all right, or my brother opens up a business, we need to support him. We got to support, because if those businesses crash, if those businesses are not supported, how are we supposed to support our own? How are blacks are supposed to prosper if we don't support those businesses?
Yeah, there goes the line. Light up again. Let's go back to the phone lines. Good evening, Primetime. Ivan Showtime, Independent Tinker.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Yes.
How are you tonight?
Good. How you doing?
Wonderful.
Yes.
I am not a resident of the Golden Gates community, but my sister and huge family that live in that area, in that community. And from what I have seen, as a community leader, it's important for me to know who has the backs of the people during the time of, the pandemic, now that we're heading into post-COVID, we don't know if we're going to have a second wave, but I am here to applaud Mr. Roberts, on the job that he has done and looking out for his people and going beyond the call of duty to make sure that a lot of hungry families in this community, no matter how nice the community, no matter how nice the people live in stone houses, wooden houses, everybody feeling it. People in Westfield have Westfield problems. But specifically, this message is for Mr. Roberts. Mr. Roberts, continue doing what you're doing, but always remember these 4 things, these 4 key things, to keep it up in your community. Look out when you become, because we're calling this, when you become the candidate, we need you to look into education, to not only help with education in your community, look into, oh Lord, do forgive me, but education. How do you fix any crime in the Golden Gates community? You've done an amazing job at fixing up the parks and so forth that young men can occupy themselves and, find time away from the streets, because it's easy to get caught up with company and friends. When you are here promoting a better Golden Gates and looking into better in your park so people can congregate and have a safe place and everything to do a lot of things. So just continue doing the job. I didn't finish my thought, but anyhow, just continue doing the amazing job that you're doing. Stand firm, continue taking care of the people. The people are watching what you're doing. And I pray to God that our party makes the right decision in choosing you as the next candidate, Golden Gate.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Carl, appreciate your call.
Showtime. I wanted to address one of the things he touched on, education.
Yeah.
One of the things I have in mind for Golden Gates, but this has also been a national issue for quite some time. One of the things I would like to do, if given the opportunity, is to implement an adult literacy program. We have quite a few, and I'm not tailor-making it primarily for one specific gender, but we have some of our young men who cannot read and write, all right? And so they're not employable, all right? Or if they do, they get low-paying jobs. But at times, some of these guys, as young men, they have a child or two and they're unable to take care of the child.
And that would lead to crime.
Exactly, because when they are now forced to go to child support court, and the judge asks you, well, you have to make this contribution on a monthly basis. These guys now saying, look here, either I go to jail or I find this money to take care of my child or children. So what these guys are going to do, as you just alluded to, they're going to go to a life of crime to support their families. So we have to implement and make persons employable by providing them the opportunity to read and write, to give them the fundamental principles to build themselves and to improve themselves, that they become employable. Because Ivan, that will allow you to either get a minimum wage job, or it will give you the confidence to further on your education, to get your high school diploma, or to get your tertiary diploma as well.
Yeah, one of the questions that was someone sent to me when I told them that you were going to be a guest on the show, one of the things that they ask about is, do you have to get into politics to make a contribution to the development of a community?
No. You have different ways. You have community activists,
Exactly.
All right, that could play the development of the role to elevate a country. But one of the things I noticed, Ivan, and tell me if I'm wrong, our country is a lot different than it was 35, 40 years ago.
Absolutely.
It's quite different in terms of, in so many ways, we are not as family oriented as we once were as a community. We would like to bring that back, and then opportunities for our people. It seems to be very slim and narrow for persons to survive in this country or to elevate themselves. We have to economically empower our people, invest in our people. That is something that we're not seeing right now. The investment and behaviors for them to excel and to improve themselves right now. That is something that I'm going to advocate and strongly push for aggressively. Take a look at it from this instance. The two largest employers in this country are the hotels and the government. Now, the government has been downsizing over the past couple of years since they come in. The hotels are now closed, now just recently open. How many small businesses or businesses that we have operated? Only the successful businesses that have been around for 30, 40, umpteen years have the financial independence to stay open and survive. The other businesses have collapsed. So you then have persons who are forced to find employment either in the hotel or in the government because they don't have the money to open up their own businesses, or it's even difficult for persons to get a business license, to get access to capital from the banks, to get loans to fund their startup business. And that's something that we have to change.
Sometime, we made a statement, Mr. Roberts, I guess, made a statement in reference to the hotels losing their businesses, and he's 100% correct. But I don't think the government, the government hasn't downsized, as far as I know.
Well, I mean, since this government has come in, we have seen some persons go home.
From where?
From different ministries.
Oh, I know.
When you say go home, you're referring to like after 30 years or 40 years?
I mean, well, we've seen persons within the government.
The government went on record 2 weeks ago stating that not one person in the government hold the line.
We've seen persons in the Ministry of Education. We've seen persons in the Ministry of Education got downsized when they came in. We saw persons who got downsized in the gaming board. Even the government is now being legally challenged on persons who they thought was wrongfully dismissed.
Well, if you say the gaming board, I mean, all the hotels are closed, right? Now the tours on Bay Street from March. I mean,
This before
March.
This before March.
Yeah, this before. Let me be clear with that. I'm talking about since the government came to office, in May 2017 that we saw the government had downsized in different areas, in different ministries, not because of COVID. I'm talking about prior to.
And the government downsizing?
Yes.
I think I have to do a report on that next
If I'm not mistaken,
start our show.
there is a matter that was
That's
settled several months ago in reference to some gaming board officers. I know about that situation. Now, whether they were downsizing when they did it, or they just say, you know what, this and that. Just the other day, all the officers who were working at the schools, the security officers at the schools, they started letting them go. Because they say, well, with school being closed and all that, and a lot of them, one of the things.
Letting people go?
Yeah.
No, there may be persons who.
I'm just saying, they just let
persons, the government wasn't, as far as I understand, wasn't renewing persons who were on a 52-week program, right? Well, what the PLP left in power, right? Where they put people in businesses and then the government paid them because they was lack creativity of finding jobs and being people. And the FNM came in power and they continue the program, right? And I can understand you saying that. But when you that's why I didn't want to interrupt you when you was talking about the true representation. And I remember when the sale of BDC from the former chairman of the PLP, Hubert Alexander Ingram, and he.
Why don't you just say the former prime minister? Why you got to say the former chairman?
So people identify him more easier. Indian people will identify him more easier when you say the former chairman.
You can't say the former prime minister.
Listen, and he's told, I don't know if I can't remember if it's the own folks or the President Attorney General, Carl Shire Bell, and he told him to go in the, and I think it's what the guy who died from
I know you're talking
Corn
about.
Hotel, what's this guy name?
Charles Maynard.
Charles Maynard. Go into your constituency and garner the views of your constituent, and the first one. And they had an old base of people saying no, right? And like how he said, he's planning to carry, if he is nominated for PLP. And my personal view, if the PLP would like to win Golden Gate's one of the easiest ways to nominate Obie Roberts. Number one, he can afford to run, right? Number two, he can afford to help the people in Golden Gates, right? He can afford to. And number three, it's a very easy seat for him to win.
Easy seat for him to win.
The folks were the other way out. Listen to me.
Anyway, guys,
You were going to break?
Yeah, we do for break. It's 8 o'clock. Let's save that talk for us. Anyway, guys, we're going to take our first break of the evening, 8 o'clock, and of course, when we come back, Independent Thinker holding a talk. We'll see what he has on his mind. We'll take a break and be back after this. Having Showtime, Primetime again, Independent Thinker, and our special guest, Obie Roberts, in the studio. And people are texting in and saying, Obie, this is just almost a done deal for you, boy. You got a lot of people who have a lot of confidence in you.
I'll say this, Ivan. Showtime, the support that I've been getting from the persons in Golden Gates and throughout the country has been very much overwhelming. It shows that they appreciate the effort that I've been doing thus far in the constituency. It hasn't been easy, despite all of the economic challenges, COVID, and health concerns that we face without that way. And people are of the opinion right now they're not satisfied from what they're seeing from this government since they come to office. Many persons feel that they made a grave mistake in voting in this Free National Movement government, and they are eager to go back to the polls and to correct the wrong of electing this government.
Listen, I gotta rebut that. Listen, he's saying that and he's 100% correct about the challenges that this country faces, and not only that. And you realize this is the first guest I haven't hardly said anything because me and his daddy, right? Then he showed us together. He was one of my best guests. So you get the week. I'll be honest with you. I can still said that, right? He's getting away, and I don't mind because it seems that he has a great intention for the constituency of Golden Gates, and I applaud him. Plus, I give him my support if I have any, whatever's weight. I think he could do a much better job than the present member of parliament for Golden Gates. And that's, you know, I say that now, I say that next week, next month, next year, next election day. And that's why I said to him, if the PLP don't want him to be the standard bearer for Golden Gates, you can use him in the Independent Party or the DNA Party. Not now, right now. But listen, when he said, but the Bailey people should, some will regret going to the polls. Some people will regret it, don't care what they do. Some people regret that they voted for the PLP and they didn't vote for the government. But this unusual time in this country, no government ever, even in the world, it's experienced where the whole world is on its knees. We had a pandemic in 1918 in the United States with the flu up where 60 million people died, but the whole world didn't suffer. Now the whole world is challenged, and so we can expect, and not only that, but plenty persons fail to mention the state of affairs that the former administration, the PLP, left this country is in. Is why we're having such a hard time now, because all the leverage and extras that the country now needs were wasted, used up, and that's why the challenges now are exceptional.
I love to respond to my
listen,
I don't totally agree with that. Go ahead.
I don't agree. Listen, what I'm saying is factually, you have to agree or not. But listen to me. What I'm saying to you is this. The PLP administration from 2012 to 2017 had no pandemic, had no COVID-19, had no challenges, told us on basically the whole full 5 years. We didn't have a balanced budget. We never had a surplus, right? We had a deficit. We had overdrafts. When we had no pandemic, when told us on basically for full 5 years. And some people in the PLP today expect this government to do miracle whereas the people ain't satisfied with this ain't happening. Listen, we never, Pillen, even the great Lyndon Pillen, God rest the dead, never had a challenge like what we have today.
That's sorry, I thought you were true.
No, I'm sure you can stop. That's why they all continue to talk. Listen to me. And I feel, right, that the government today is challenged because of the state of affairs that the country unfortunately is in, by us having to still in 2020 relying on the only pillar that is left from Sir Stafford Sands, the UEP. The PLP had 50 years rule in this country, 25 from Sir Lyndon, 15 from the former Prime Minister, Right Honorable Hubert Alexander Ingram, and 10 from the former Prime Minister, Right Honorable Perry Gladstone Christie. And it hasn't created no pillar, no other pillar which this country can stand up on, right, financially and help stand the trust that we and effects that we have from the COVID-19. We are still depending on tourism, and as a result, if no tourism ambition from March and this December, we will have an effect. When we never had a balanced budget from 68, 69, from the 70s, we hasn't had our last balanced budget.
Okay. Obie Roberts.
All right. Showtime, I will remind my good friend, Mr. Thinker here, that this, I would say, this dismal F&M government, Mr. Thinker is trying to sell this notion that our problems are from Dorian and from COVID-19. Oban happened before Hurricane Dorian and before COVID-19. Okay? BP had multiple blackouts, and then they could not give an account. When Prime Minister was promised an investigation in the BPL matter, where we saw 2 CEOs of BPL board was let go within 12 months. That happened before COVID. When the matter of the Town Center Mall and the conflict of interest with Brent Seminary, that happened before COVID-19 and Hurricane Dorian. People had lost confidence in this government before these 2 matters took place. The only thing is, these matters, why people have no confidence in this government, because they handle both of these things very poorly. Okay? COVID-19, but like I said to you before, people want communication. They want information. Because yes, This is something, we can't blame the African government for COVID, I'm not saying that.
Absolutely.
I'm just saying how poorly they have handled it. Same thing with Hurricane Dorian. That's a Category 5 hurricane, but we looked at how they handled it. They so poorly handled that. There were many things that took place in this country before both of those disasters that led to the loss of confidence, the squandering of goodwill that this government had won. 35 seats to 4. Now you know what happened now? The Bahamian people have no confidence in this government. It's a reason Mr. Simmons is no longer in the cabinet. It's a reason Reese Schiffman is no longer with the Free National Movement. There's a reason when you increase value-added tax by 60% without consulting the Bahamian people and making it even more difficult for the Bahamian people. You even had that on your manifesto. No one was of the opinion that they was going to increase value-added tax. But when you come in, you have Peter Turnquest within his portfolio gave tax exemptions to persons who own Bahamians who own aircrafts on maintenance and other equipment, and he happened to have some interest in one of the companies here. What do you call that, Ivan? That happened at least 2-3 months before. When you make irresponsible comments, when you said the monies from the hurricanes hurricane relief, when he said $42 million moonwalked his way out of the consolidated fund, he said he can't find it. Then 6 days later, it magically appeared, and then he had to force and tell the Bahamian people that the money was always there. When you make irresponsible comments like that, many of the things you lose confidence of the Bahamian people.
So if you were saying that the state of affairs financially that this country is in is as a result of the poor confidence that they have in the government, and you don't want to attribute all the dumb and worthless decisions that the PLP has made right now, the Bahamian people are paying for a building here on Thompson Boulevard right now today for one of the PLP generals. The Bahamian people in this country, taxpayers' money, are paying for one of the PLP generals building on Thompson Boulevard right now today. Right now, the PLP has signed a contract for 25 years and pay an advance of 25 years on Nassau Street. We have urban renewals, buildings in this country now that the people are paying $1,000, $4,000 a month right now. The PLP signed for 15 years. All these decisions like this, where the PLP spent $100 million on Bouncy to go to Paul and Andrews. I mean, I could go on till tomorrow. $30 million building on Woodford being built. $30 million building being built on Woodford right now, close to the police station on Woodford, across from Bamboo Shack, and without a lease agreement. They are some of the decisions that the PLP made. The school will build next door for 2 students for $5 million.
2 students in the
2 students inside the class. The school is bigger than the clinic, where tourists and Bahamians have to go to the clinic. So listen, when you start to talk about wastage, mismanagement, the PLP get every trophy. Ain't even none for no one else. Don't start that. Because I'll give you the whole list. That's only 7. I get 140.
Ivan, I'd love to respond to that.
Go ahead, Obie.
That PLP government had their referendum read to them, and they were fired. When this government came in, they promised transparency, accountability. Let me remind Mr. Thinker of this. You remember, within weeks of the FNM coming in, they promised audited statements on mismanagement of monies in the various ministries. Have we yet to see them yet? After 3.5 years? No. The only one that we got was from Adrian Gibson, the member of Parliament in Long Island, when he made some irresponsible comments about Philip Brave Davis owing X amount of money in water and sewage, which he had to retract. And his minister came in and apologized and said he was incorrect. So we're waiting on this mismanagement of monies in actual facts in black and white. Yeah. Okay, we have not seen that yet. They came in and advocating corruption. They have yet, Ivan, prove corruption at the PLP is yet. But what we saw in the Frank Smith case, we saw 2 Free National Movement cabinet ministers judicially condemned of their involvement in that. We didn't say that. But they came to power on, and Dr. Miller said, any of his members of parliament who are caught in any position of uncertainty or wrongdoing will be let go. We have not seen that.
You see that?
What have you seen?
Not one PLP cabinet minister
No,
has
see,
been left.
I
You have
see.
one cabinet minister
But Ivan-
who gave up one of his posts. And
Ivan-
then he gave the next one.
Ivan, as I said there, I repeat again, that government was fired.
So no, man, so really we should talk about this.
Well, because see, Mr. Dingy here wants to condemn a past government that is gone.
So we can just let it go.
How can you go back and you
Well, we have to do that.
But you don't address.
What is the suggestion?
But you don't address what is going on under this current
You
government.
doing it. You address it.
Now, exactly, because I'm speaking of the present.
Right.
Now, the PLP, we made some changes. We have a new leader.
Right.
We have a new deputy leader.
100%
We have a new chairman. We have a new national deputy chairman.
You're right.
We have new party officers.
Right.
We have persons who are presenting a plan. We made changes to our constitution where we made amendments to involve more persons, to make it more inclusive of persons being involved in that. To bring the younger persons to the forefront and for them to be involved with decision making. We heard what the Bahamian people said and what we needed to get done in terms of changing some of the things that we did wrong. Because primarily, if you take a look at this, we run one constituency in Nassau. All of our strongest, except Angleton, we lost them. We were sent a strong message by the Bahamian people
Yeah.
to come back, go get your act together and come
Come
back.
back.
That is what we are in the process of doing right now, Showtime. But what I'm trying to tell Mr. Tinker, yes, we heard what happened under the former administration, some of the wrongdoings. All right, some of our persons did not do their homework as they ought to. Otherwise, we would have won more seats.
Yeah.
Okay. Homework, right? Because I like the
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Now, my good friend here, Mr. Tinker was saying now that the PLP didn't have to deal with COVID. This Free National Movement government had the benefit of having value-added tax of almost $2 billion that was collected by for 4 we lost under the PLP. And they have
This how money they
Hold on now.
But they have borrowed more money in 3.5 years than the PLP has borrowed in 5 years. And they have yet to give an account for that. You're talking about also the Grand Requirement Resort. That horrible deal.
Yeah, that was a good deal.
That was not a good deal. But Mr. Baker would not want to address that particular matter.
I think I have to give Obie credit to some degree because he's not running away from the fact that, yes,
He's running away
he
from
messed up. He messed up.
No, he's saying-
I said, listen to what I'm saying.
All right, go ahead.
He is saying that old administration that you're talking about, yeah, they messed up.
I think it's not about who's still there. She's still in the right now. She was a part of that last administration.
Hold on.
Hey.
Let me remind Mr. Tinker that Hubert Minnis, Brent Simonet, Brenzo Road, Dion Folks was a part of the last Hubert Ingram administration that also gaffed when they also they gave away BTC at a fire sale. They were welcome back.
And the PLP ain't taking back.
Hold on.
The PLP didn't take it back.
Hold on.
And I'll give you a quote from your daddy.
I'm giving you an example.
All right.
Now, you also talk about certain conflicts of interest when you have the current prime minister who gave himself a contract when he was minister of health of his building on Nassau Street.
But that's not.
No, but he's, I mean,
You gotta understand.
hold on, Mr.
Make sure people-
Hold on, Mr. Hold on, Mr. Think. I finished it.
Hold on.
Hold on. Then you also have the road improvement project, which we saw was overrun by $100 million. Mr. Simmons still come back and was re-elected in 2017 and was a part of this cabinet as well. After his debacle, you know what they did? They brought Brent back, they cleaned, bleached him, and represented him back as if nothing happened when he was under the last Hubert Ingram administration.
Yeah.
What time is it? Just 2007 to 2012. Is that correct?
But these guys said come back.
I know, I hear you, and you're correct. But I'm making sure, establishing that. You hear me say?
I'll give you an example.
The PLP is running away from the record from 2012 to 2017. He said that's an old PLP. That he bringing up the former Prime Minister, Hubert Alexander Ingram.
No, I bring up minutes. Not bringing up minutes. They sat around the table.
I remember, no, but listen, hold on now, Sudan. I gotta rebut the things he's saying to give me the truth. You see, you can't say these things.
Not true.
Yeah, but number one, the government never said that the PLP left $2 billion from the Wagner Treasury.
I said, hold on.
Never. Never happened.
No, I said value added tax.
Value added tax. I tell you now.
Just round
I will give you the information. Give me a chance. Give me the information.
Okay, go ahead.
The $2 billion, right? that the PLB collected for VAT was never left.
Where was it then?
It was never left.
Where was it?
The VAT money goes in the consolidated fund.
Yes.
They use that to pay staff. The government have to pay $56 million a month in salaries and bills.
So it was yours.
I'm saying to you, but don't you made it sound like the FNM came and need $2 billion for the treasury.
No, what I'm
It's
saying
impossible.
is, no, Ivan.
Didn't happen.
No, Mr. Thinker, what I'm saying to you is, the FNM inherited $1.6 billion that was collected before they came to office that they never had before.
Right.
You know what also? They had 1.6 that was collected. And
It wasn't there.
Hold on. All that wasn't gone. And then also, you have the benefit of Bahama, which they were vehemently opposed to, that also helped stimulate our tourism industry as well. And yet, we did not have that until 2015, and we had the opening of Bahama but weeks before the general election, that we still see this government still increasing taxes on the backs of the Bahamian people with all that additional revenue coming in.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Robert,
Good point.
listen to me. When you talk with Bahama, tell the Bahamian people the full story, eh? And don't just tell the Bahamian people that when the FNM in Bahama was there. No, and it happened like that.
Bahama was open.
It didn't happen like that. The Bahamian people lose thousands of acres of land that the PLB give to Bahama. 10,000 that I grew up in Megona, and hundreds of acres inside Bimini. The whole of Bimini's gone.
Hold up, that has
The whole of Bimini is gone under the PLP, and the former cabinet ministers and former members of parliament, they were sit right there.
Mr. Dingle.
While they give the Bimini land, and the Bahamians in this country carry 1 acre of crown land under the PLP.
Let me get my.
But I have a nice one addressing something.
Go ahead, real quick.
The Bahama model, and that's where I make it from here. Remember when they said 10,000 acres of land was going to be sold to the Chinese and Andres, and then 500 work permits or permanent residency permits was supposed to be given to the Chinese? That was all proven to be lies about Bahama. What did the Attorney General, who's still the Attorney General today, less than 2 months after they came to power, they said they saw nothing afoot, nothing, no wrongdoing in the Bahama deal at all. So I don't know what you're talking about. Now,
What is wrong in the Bahama? I can tell you what the Bahamian lose.
No. The Free National Military Power did not say that nothing was wrong with the Bahama deal and any negotiations of it. They never said anything of that regard.
Anyway, guys, listen, I'm gonna get my phone lines out again. 326-8255. Those of you who want to join the conversation, boy, it's really getting hot in here. And for those of you on Facebook, Independent Thinker, and Instagram, Independent Thinker 242. So you could share your views with us, tell us how you feel, what you think. Of course, our special guest, Obie Roberts, in studio, vying for that Golden Gates constituency.
Oh, and I also serve as the national vice chairman of the party, so one of the
okay.
Yes, sir.
Good. Didn't that all post at some point?
He was the party's national chairman.
Okay. He's holding the position with Fred Michelad's, right?
No, yeah, Fred is our party's national chairman.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Roberts got a whole vice chairman, but he was the PLD.
Yeah.
He was the baby. Listen, he made some statements that I think warrant to respond. In reference to Bahama. The Bahamian people who are listening to this show via Facebook, Independent Thinker, Instagram, Independent Thinker 242, on Love 97, on 951 Channel TV. Listen, the Bahamian people lost plenty land. The whole golf course, the A1 golf course out there is gone. The PLB gave that away. The PLB gave away over 1,000 acres of land in Andres. So the only thing that Bahama, one of the greatest things
They give it to the Chinese? They give it to the Chinese?
I want him to quantify the statement. I
said over 1,000 acres.
Where in Andres, sir?
In Andres.
That's a very broad statement.
Yeah, but that's a
You want me to bring you to the bench?
Yes, please.
You want me to bring you to the bench?
Because I'm saying to you is this, if you make statements.
I see, you want me to be exact now. I just start calling some names. Try that. Because if I go start from Bimini, and I can tell you all the law firms who did all the giving away the Bimini land and Bimini from the pastors' land that was granted on the BLP.
Under the PLP.
Yeah.
You sure about that, sir?
Listen.
You sure about that, sir? Bimini is only a small bit of island, and as you have north and south down that way, that's what I'm saying.
Phone lines are open, guys. The phone lines are open. I love this conversation.
Yeah.
I love this conversation.
Yeah, Obie, right.
Yeah.
I done put him in the winning column for the BLV. Never mind the little rough up, because his daddy is one of my best friends.
Yeah.
His daddy was a good man.
I always used to say.
Never mind what they say with them.
Goodman's Bay.
Yeah, the inner being was a great man.
Yeah.
Me and him to sit plenty nights, 1197. We had a conversation, and he was cabinet. Me and him talk about issues, we talk about solutions, we talk about ideas, we talk about solving problems in this country. He was a great guy. Now, if he, Mr. Roberts, could just continue on that journey, the name of people will have a good, at least Golden Gates will have a good representative in the country, will have a good son. So continue.
But Obie, one of the things I always have a problem with is a system that we have. I mean, you talk about representing the people in Golden Gates, but ultimately, you're overshadowed by the leader, aren't you? I mean, to some degree.
I mean, overshadowed, I mean.
In other words, earlier I talked about sometimes when you vote against a certain bill that the party is trying to pass, leaders nowadays would say, anybody who vote against this bill, I can fire them. And,
They fall in line.
Yeah.
It shows that Bahamian politicians and Bahamian men, once they reach the House Assembly, I think it's get these have a party or something first, and that's it.
Yeah.
Once they have, because, listen, I cannot see how you could stand up in the House Assembly and say, I represent the people for Angliston, or I represent the people for the great constituency of Marathon, like how the former Minister of Education, Jerome Fitzgerald, used to say, right? He represents these people from Angliston, but then he voted me against the people in Marathon, then wrong. Because if you represent me, and Angliston, like how Glenn Martin is vote what she won't vote, and I Angliston. Because she never had a town hall meeting asking us, and let me take a vote in our town hall meeting, constituency meeting, and whatever the majority of the votes in that constituency is, carry that to the house and you vote there. You can't be a brain box of me. I'm stupid, not because I live in the Grove, not because I live in Angliston. How you believe all of a sudden you win, right? You could hear everything, all the problems, you have solution, you listening, you writing down, and the minute you win, and in that election, you don't need the viewers so much no more. You go to something you vote with the PNP wrong.
Yeah.
That's impossible.
That's why
That's wrong.
That's why I don't agree with this Westminster system that we have.
No, there's nothing wrong with it, There are checks and balances in it. Let me tell you, and I give you an example. Like, for instance, with the increase of value-added tax. And this is what my understanding is. You have governments and parties have their caucuses, their parliamentary caucuses, which when you have things like this that is going to be discussed, you need to get dialogue from all of the members of parliament and how they think and how they feel about it. And then you come to an understanding and compromise. What people were saying about value-added tax is what some of the member parliaments who did not support it weren't aware or were updated on what was going to be presented. And many people are of the opinion that these persons found out the day when it was tabled in the House Assembly. When you have, to give Sir Lyndon his credit, when he was Prime Minister, he received full dialogue from his backbenchers, all right, in terms of what was going on, how they feel, allow them to have their involvement in terms of how you think about this. And I think what Mr. Thinker is saying, persons then have an opportunity to gain a temperature from their constituents on how they feel about this and how they feel about that, and then provide their input of whether they support it or not. Now, also, Mr. Thinker also be mindful of, not every one of those constituents are going to agree or disagree together. You're going to have some dissension. But I think some dialogue is required with the citizens, particularly when you have an increase of a value-added tax in already economic tough times.
Yeah.
Listen, hold on, man, before you go any further. Listen, not only the increase, the implementation of value-added tax, that's the most worthless decision will go down in history that the PLP made.
How's that?
The next one is they refuse to take back PTC. Listen, in Suriname and plenty of those other Caribbean countries, they chase cable riders of the country. They chase them. They take back their television. Listen, on Prince Charles, right? I was to the rally, the PLP rally, right? When his dad, the late, great Obie Roberts, stated on the stage, buyers beware. Never forget that quote from his dad. right? The PLP win.
And what do you say?
The PLP win in 2012. And what happened? PLP and their merry men, along with the Prime Minister, Right Honorable Perry Johnson Christie, they shuffle, they dance, they play crazy, courageous, this bullskate, 2% monetary foolishness, right? Never get back Batelco, cable wires is still young. Batelco Highway, the electronic, the one of the greatest,
Yeah, the stocks were up.
it's not only stock, I don't know stock, man. I'm talking about the value of his dad. His dad was the minister of
Works in two.
Then I was a captain on one of the tugboats, would carry the cable from Cable Beach out to the ocean to the AT&T ship. I was the captain on the tug at the time, right, for Bahamas Marine. And I was rolling out the cable as I go to meet the ship, and then they lift it off me and put it on, and they continuously join that cable, the optic fiber cable. And his dad, at one time on my show, he said that the Bahamian people at that particular time had spent some $60 million, and the PLP was supposed to be the party for the downtrodden, the blacks, and the poor people in this country. He ain't take that back. Why? Why would the PLP take 5 years and refuse to take back Batelco? Why would the PLP refuse to repeal the Removal Property Act that was passed in 1995 or 96? And they voted no in the House Assembly, they voted no in the Senate, they marched out, they hold a press conference, and they said it was wrong against Bahamian people, and they win in 2002.
And never changed it?
And never changed it. Same body.
But in regards to Batelco, I know one of the things that the former Prime Minister...
I love to respond to some of his comments.
All right, one of the things that the former Prime Minister said, what he did was he put something on the purchase of that Batelco.
Only 100 million.
Say if they decide to buy it back.
Poison pill.
That's only, that's 100 million. Batelco's giving the government more than 100 million a year.
All right.
But Batelco, before Batelco and wireless get caught up, listen, we only had to pay the penalty. Because when you request a judicial review to the Supreme Court, and you went up to the Privy Council, they will, I guarantee you, those judges and lords inside Downing Street will rule that, how is it that the accounting firm for the company that buying Batelco is the accounting firm that assessing the value, right? How can I buy your car and tell you, and then I can tell you what the value and pay you, and then I can leave and use, if I told you your car value $10,000, and then I can leave 8,000 in Astray, so when you will leave 8,000 in Astray when I pull off. That's how it makes sense to you? Listen, all the things that happened with Batelco, the PLP didn't need no kind of penalty to worry about. The 100 million is a joke for the value. And listen, if you see Alan Johnson from Freeport calling to the show right now, and just give you a simple value of that highway will run to Haiti, and then Caribbean Islands run to Palm Beach. The optic fiber cable road was laid by the sweats and tears of the Bahamian people, and the PLP refused to notice the value and take it back from Cable Wires. When Cable Wires was even a part of the bidding, because we remember Blue Water was one of them was trying to take Batelco for $20 million. $20 million on the PLP.
Ivan, I love
Listen,
the response.
$20 million.
I love the response.
I respond after.
Let me start with his first comment when he said with value-added tax. There was a 1.5 year national education and consultation of the preparation of the implementation of value-added tax on January 1st, 2015. I don't know what Mr. Finger talking about. People were very scared and concerned when value-added was coming because this was a new tax. Persons were being prepared for this. When you had persons at that time, Minister of Finance Michael Akitas, and other persons, Minister of State, excuse me, because Mr. Christie was the Minister of Finance, in which national dialogue was being taken place. We were going from constituency to constituency and national discussion in terms of implementation of value-added tax. So that what he said was, we did not force it down the Bahamian people's throat. They were well prepared and know that it was coming. Some people had their reservations, yes, because this is the first time that we are going to have this type of consumer tax on the Bahamian people. Now, we go to BTC. Now, it wasn't the PLP who sold BTC at a fire sale, the cable and wireless, you know, okay? And then he brings up this name, Blue Water. You have many other companies that were interested in it. but they didn't buy it, and it wasn't sold under the PLP. It was sold under the Free National Movement government. Now, Mr. Think it sound like Mr. Biagler, $100 million, $100 million. $100 million is a lot.
of money,
And any time, if you have to buy back any company and you have to pay that penalty of $100 million, Mr. Think also knows that BTC did not even have to pay that because Cable and Wireless waived that. That's when the agreement came in with the 2%. All right? That's when it came in with the 2%. It didn't cost the Bahamian taxpayers no money. And it wasn't the PLP who sold it. Okay?
But I never said that.
No, I'm just
But I know you say something incorrect.
No, I didn't say
You didn't say you said it now.
I never said that. I said the Free National Movement sold it. The PLP didn't sell it.
Right.
Now, you were saying in terms of us getting it back. Now, Mr. Dingler, and one of the things you got to be mindful of, you don't want to be known as a government or a country that when you come to power, that you automatically start as what the FM has been known for, stop, review, and cancel.
Yeah.
You ain't going to attract much foreign investors down here. No one is going to come to the Bahamas when that happened. You know when that happened? When in 2007 to 2012, when Mr. Ingram came back and he started chopping up contracts, he did not attract not one foreign direct investor in his last term in office because persons were not confident in this government. One, because of this type of behavior. And at times you have to work with certain foreign direct investors in your company. You have to negotiate a better deal for the best interest of the people.
Automatic.
All right, but you just can't simply just come in and slash things in that regard because other people around the world, if you want to attract them to your country for different industries, they have to develop a partnership with you. You ain't going to attract no one the other that.
Yeah, listen, Mr. Roberts is 100% correct in terms of stating that you can't just come and change things because governments are continuous and you can't just come and change things willy-nilly. You're right.
And you have an agreement.
PLP campaign in 2012. I'm getting back to Betago. I said before I even start any conversation with Betago, I gave him a fact statement from his father. Buyers beware. Google it. Listen to me.
So in actuality, all you're saying is you think that the Progressive Liberal Party, by not buying back Batelco was one of the...
Not buying back. You don't have to buy back Betago. You have to buy back. Why would you have to buy something that is yours? Listen to me. The PLP sit right there. All them in the cabinet sit right there. They only take back Betago based on what his dad said. Buyers beware. We will get back Betago. Listen to me. They only take back Betago. You know what they did? They create another company to compete against Betago, right? Called Alive, right? And the Bahamian people now own 51% Alive and 49% of BTC to compete against a company that they had owned 100%. That's not making sense to you? That's what the PLP did to the Bahamian people. The PLP, the Progressive Liberal Party, did to the Bahamian people. And when I talk about the renewable property act, he didn't respond to that.
No, I can respond to that. I'll respond to that as well.
The PLP voted against. I gave him the head start. The PLP voted against it.
It was Hubert Ingram.
It's Hubert Alexander, no, not Hubert Ingram, right on the middle, Hubert Alexander.
My bad, right.
Who at this time he was leading there for them. Right? He was leading there for them, who came from the PLP. Listen to me. The PLP had a chance. See, you can't be campaigning to the young people and playing roots on TV about racist movie and thing, and playing the black people hard against white people. And then when you have a chance, when you have an opportunity to make it better for black people, you don't do it. You don't do it because you're gonna see land prices in this country is exorbitant. It's all the reach of ordinary Bahamians in this country. If you make it minimum wage, you will never purchase a piece of land. You better hope someone leave one for you. You understand? The PLP refused to repeal it. And if I say something that's incorrect, you could correct me or he could correct me. Did they repeal the Republic Act, as far as you know?
No, they didn't.
Did they take back Betago, as far as you know?
We got 2% back. We got
2% of what?
We got 2%. That
From
is whole.
49 to 50.
That is whole. Because I can respond to him.
Yes, sir.
Now,
Yes, sir.
the repealing of the Renewable Properties Act. This is one thing I could agree with Mr. Tinkerville. Because honestly, right now, the cost of land in this country is very high. It is beyond the threshold of the average Bahamian to purchase.
Right.
All right? When you have foreigners who could come in and purchase land at $250,000. This is another thing now. It's interesting that he talks about what the PLP did in not repealing it. but what has happened under this Free National Movement government under the Commercial Enterprise Act.
Go ahead and tell
Okay,
people.
which they, all right, basically implemented, and it was 2 stages. You implemented an act in which non-Bahamians could qualify for land to open up their businesses and bring people in. Okay, to bring people in. The average Bahamian cannot afford $250,000.
Right.
And then when you implemented the Commercial Enterprise Act in 2017, you come back in 2018, you come back in 2019, and then implemented or weaken our immigration laws to allow non-Bahamians to come in and compete for jobs that Bahamians are competing for themselves. That there, as a party, when you come in and say it's the people's time, and you come in and you betray the people's trust, I'm talking about this F&M government,
Right.
in which you weaken the laws, and we saw the division in the House Assembly where some F&M members of Parliament didn't even come to vote. And I think the number was 19 to 17 with some abstentions. So you also could tell that many persons within this government was not in support of that decision, because it contradicts that government made a decision for the best interest of the Bahamian people. Okay? That and alone. But with the Movable Property Act, I agree. We need to find some way to make land affordable for the average Bahamian, because land is power, and Bahamians, that is the Bahamian dream.
Right.
The single largest investment that you can make for yourself as a man or woman in this country is to own your own home.
Yeah.
Listen, and some of the things
He's dead right. Dead right.
he's dead right. Some of the things he said.
When he was in
I'm going to ask him some questions, right? Do you support a PLP government continuously gain of 410,000 acres?
Based on the circumstances.
Would you support that?
No, based on the circumstances. I don't know why they gave it to them, but it has to be a very good reason, because I am of the opinion, if you or Ivan or anyone inside there have a very good plan,
No, I say foreigner. Don't make sense.
No, you can lease it to the foreigner.
No.
No, but they ain't leasing to the foreigners.
No.
The PLP gave them 10,000 acres to make one of them.
So they can.
I don't know if you have
So they could take a part of this 10,000 acres and sell it?
No.
They can sell the whole, listen, it was a 50-50.
It was a partnership.
It was a partnership.
It was a partnership with Meguanians and foreign
No, it was a,
Yes.
no, it was a 50.
Yes.
No.
I can provide the film. I can provide the film as well. I can show him as well.
No. We different that. Let me tell you why we different that. It was a partnership agreement between the government and the I group. The government's supposed to get 50% of the
And then you have the
sale.
Bahamians?
Not make one is have nothing to do. That's the beginning.
Yes.
The government. So you gotta say it correct, because people is listening, and you need them to have the correct information. Listen to what I'm
I
saying.
can provide it for you.
Listen to me.
So you can see it.
It was a 50-50 PPP, or what it's called, public-private.
Yeah, triple P.
Right.
Triple P.
Listen to me.
Private partnership.
I can tell you, and I can prove to you why I'm saying it's correct. 10,000 acres was given to the I group. They're supposed to sell the property to foreigners, and 50% of the sale go to the Bahamian government, and the other 50 go to the developer. You know what Mr. England did? The PLP chairman? What he did was give outrightly 5,000 acres to the I group and take back the 50% what the Bahamian people were supposed to get, what the government's supposed to get from the sale. He already gave them the 5, because if you get 10, and when you sell, 50% come to me. If you sell the whole 10, I mean, they still get 5%, 5,000 acres, and you get 5,000. Mr. Ingram and his government gave them 5,000 already, and then take back 5,000 acres for the Bahamian people. So that clearly shows that I'm 100% correct. A reference that all I asked him was, do you support the PLB continuing initiatives where foreigners can get out 10,000 acres and no Bahamian can get 10,000 acres?
That's right.
Let's take a break.
No.
Yeah, we gotta take a break. Obi, listen, we gotta hear what you gotta say when we come back.
yes.
Because I need you to be better. Anyway, guys, we're gonna take our final break. Back, everybody. I've been Showtime, Primetime, Independent Thinker, Obie Roberts, and the Independent Thinker off his cap now. Because they're not. Well, Obie, you were about to rebut what Independent Thinker was saying before we take the break.
Yes, I was saying in terms of the land itself. Let me be clear with it. With the Meguana Group, you had the Hotel Corporation and the I Group each own 50% of the shares of land in Meguana Island Developers Limited. Okay, that's what the agreement was. It wasn't a giveaway of land in that regard. all right, as was been purported. If you do the research, and I'd be glad to share this with him, and explain to the Bahamian people what all transpired in that. It was a very good political brownie points to throw it out that way. All right, and many people assumed that it was some massive lie giveaway.
Yeah,
All right, but then niggas all massive lie. Hold on. Let me remind this gentleman here. You want to talk about giveaway? Okay, when you had the sale of those hotels.
In Crystal Palace?
No, in Grand Bahama.
What was Crystal Palace?
No, to the Hutchison Walpole Group. All right, in which 4 hotels. All right, we want to make it different. 4 hotels were sold to Grand Bahama, Hutchison Walpole, and over 70,000 acres of land. What has Hutchison Walpole done for Grand Bahama thus far? All right, what have they done?
I did the research of that.
Hold on. You know the research. I can send it to you. You can see it for yourself. Now, remember the pier that was being built, the deal that was negotiated just before the PRP lost. You know what had to transpire in that? The agreement of that, when it was sold to Hutchison Walpole, they could veto any deal, particularly a pier deal in Grand Bahama, because it was given to them, that authority, by the former Prime Minister Hubert Ingram. We had to get a waiver to get permission to build that pier, so we could bring more persons to Grand Bahama. Now that deal has subsequently been moved from eastern Grand Bahama inland in the city of Freeport. Nothing has happened in Grand Bahama over that period of time. Grand Bahama is being choked right now.
In 2012 and 2017,
Right?
choke.
Right? No, I'm talking about even...
So it was in choke from 2012 to 2017?
No, I'm talking 20... Hold on.
2012 to 2017.
Hold on. What has the Free National Movement done in Grand Bahama? We've seen them done nothing in Grand Bahama now. Under the last Hubert Ingram government, they had 3 cabinet ministers in Nico Grant, Karen Russell, and Zhivago Lang. They did nothing for the people of Grand Bahama. Now I could go further. The PLP...
Led by the PLP.
The PLP also implemented potable water in eastern and western Grand Bahama. This is supposed to be Magic City, the land of the Free National Movement. They have not even done that since they have been the majority of their supporters dominate Grand Bahama. You also seen a school that was the first time it was built in western Grand Bahama in 50 years. A fire station. Also the seawall. Many things of infrastructure that was being done down that way in Grand Bahama. What work have we seen take place in Grand Bahama outside of the Grand Lucaya Bar deal? We seen the tech hub. That was a disaster. They said this is going to be the tech hub capital of the Caribbean or the Bahamas, in which GIBC Digital opened its doors and closed its doors in less than 12 months. Good evening,
Primetime. Ivan Showtime, Independent Thinker, Obie Roberts in the studio with us. What's on your mind?
Yes, Primetime. I just want to let you know again, another very, very interesting conversation. I'm enjoying the dialogue, and must commend Mr. Roberts on coming and coming into frontline politics and willing to really just take whatever it is and represent his party the way he's doing. His development is definitely something to show that he is right now, to me, developed to a position that he needs to really be acknowledged by the party. What I have to say is that I'm glad to see him. He's rebutting a number of things, but we have to give credence to the fact that Thinker is presenting a lot of facts. Okay, and I'm glad to see where your Thinker is not just coming on and talking and not being able to back it up. And we have some great rebuttal by Mr. Roberts, and it's a great conversation. But what I really want to say is the fact that sometimes we see where these parties they campaign so hard against decisions by the other governments, but when they win, they don't change things. So it goes to show that sometimes they actually agree with these things. You know what I'm saying? Even with that, they clearly knew that what was presented to them was a higher percentage, so they went with a lower. But they know unless we introduce income tax and a number of other things, they have to go higher. So regardless of which government is in, they know they have to do it. But we campaign so hard against these things, and when they come in, they don't change things. And that's what I have a problem with. You know what I'm saying? They don't campaign hard against something. if you're not going to change things. The telcos can be sold under each government. We all knew that the government was not going to be able to keep up with the technology and expenses as it was moving with the telco. Blue Water was going to buy it, or someone else going to buy it, and under the peer review happening, these things will happen, and that's why so much doesn't change when it does happen. So we need to now start, if we're going to, like debate on things, let's debate on things that if we're going to give it so much heart and so much passion, when you get in, change it. And we don't see that change, which means, you know what I mean? They agree to some degree. And that's what I have to say. We need to now be debating on real facts. And look here, if we say we don't agree with something, and we come in, let's change it. Okay?
All right.
That's a great call.
Another call in a minute. One of the things also I wanted to respond to the call and add to what he was saying and to critical thinker. One of the reasons why the Progressive Party implemented VAT at 7.5%, because we were collecting substantial revenues between $25 to $30 million from the Revenue Enhancement Unit. You know what the Free National Movement did when they came into office? They dismantled it. Guess what happens 2+ years later? Mr. Ben, because he's no longer the Minister of Finance, decided to reenact it. All right? Now, let me give you some examples. You wonder why value-added tax was increased by 60%? When you give companies substantial tax concession reliefs. Like, for instance, you had businesses that was earning $50 million a year. $50 million a year. They receive business license relief in taxes, in which one of them was Mr. Obie Roberts, who got up and said it was saving $440,000 a year. Okay, $440,000 a year. Now, Ivan, if you are saving that, where you want to make up the shortfall from when you lose it, you are now forced to tax the main people, but you're taxing the poor people. Okay? You're taxing the poor people. And how many other businesses that are earning $50 million? Now, I commend Mr. Roberts, at least he went public and stated it. But how many others didn't go public and indicate how much they were in savings? The average Bahamian man can't get up there and say, I have a business that earns $50 million a year. So you had quite a few businesses. You give relief to the wealthy and you increase more hardship on the poor with increased taxes.
Listen, one of the greatest hardship, right, that is being levied on the poor black people in this country is what? The PLP had a chance to create a more progressive taxation, form of taxation. Income tax. Yeah. But they don't want the Bahamian people in the world, in the United States, the FBI, don't know where all the money coming from. It's why they didn't implement income tax. You had sales tax, they can pick from. You had income tax, they can have a hybrid tax. You can have corporate tax. You have banks in this country, foreign banks in this country, who sends off millions of dollars and monies and profits that they collect on the backs of the poor people with these high interest rate, right? And they pay tax to the country they sending the money to, while not paying no tax and bombers to the country that they make the money from. And the PLP ain't changing. Why? Why wouldn't the PLP change the form of taxation where the black poor people in this country?
They have to increase value-added tax in the bottom.
You want to? No. I mean, the mess that PLP, listen, if you know how much...
Ivan, Mr. Dinkley knows, between both parties and both supporters, which party has the bigger place of money? The PLP is the grassroots. Definitely. In comparison to the Free National Movement, you don't have no access to money, Mr. Dinkley.
I don't know what the FNM access to. I know what the DNA have access to. We don't have access to money. But what I'm saying to you is, right?
One of the wealthiest persons in the country is Mr. Branson. Take a look at the lineup of the individuals who represent the Free National Movement.
Yeah, but it's the Free National Movement.
You have Mr. Diago as well.
You come to the DNA. Why would you, Mr. Roy, you come to the DNA and be a part of the voice of change in this country? I know we can be doing it well. That's all I can make.
Guys, we're going to all the time. Before we go, Mr. Roberts, any final word?
Man, Ivan, one, it's great to see you. I just wanted to express my thanks and gratitude for you inviting me on the show, you and Mr. Dinker, and to Love 97. And I also wanted to send a shout out to the many great and fantastic people in Golden Gates who continuously to support me, welcome me into their homes, encourage me, support me, and this is on a daily occurrence of the amount of support that I get from an encouragement through these trying times. by so many people infected, and also for Bahamians. And I just want Bahamians to stay encouraged, enjoy this Christmas, and remain positive. There are better days ahead for us right now. I know things are tough for many right now, but just keep hope alive as we move forward into a new.
So what you're saying is help is on the way.
Oh, but from the PLP, yes, it will. Yes, it will. And we'll bring us a thing to us.
My final word is, if the PLP choose to yield to the former member of Parliament for Golden Gates, Shane Gibson, and Mr. Greg Burrows, instead of giving you the nomination, we have a chair, we have a seat available for you in the DNA, and you will bring great talent and money to the DNA. But I leave this quote from some former prime minister living across the building, and my final words tonight's show. If Bahamians aren't prepared to stand up and fight and defend their own Bahamas, then they don't deserve that one. Good night, Bahamas.
Anyway, that's gonna do it for us, man. We gotta get on out of here, but again, we wanna say a special thanks to all the folks that have been listening in, the ones who called in. As always, man, let's continue to put God first in everything we do, and let's hope that we get over this COVID hump, man. And to Mr. Obie Roberts, good luck to you in the Golden Gates constituency, and I think, you never know, we may have a win over there. All the best to you, Obie. Good night, everybody. I'm in Showtime, I'm out.